Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our next webinar in our Best Storytime Practices series with Jennifer Strauss from A Story Be Told. We're going to get started here in just a minute, but I wanted to make sure to point out on your screen, you do have some links to the handouts for today, as well as a link to our survey for at the end of the webinar. If you could please take a minute to fill out that survey, that'd be very helpful for us to continue offering programs like this. And also, a little reminder, we have a lot of changeover in the library world, so we're always welcoming to new voices, new questions, which some of us may have heard before, but they're always new to our new services librarians, so we're happy to answer them. And our contact emails are also available on the screen here. And I guess I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer now, and just a quick reminder that this is live. If we experience any hiccups, please bear with us. Also, Jennifer and I are not in the same room, so there is a little delay in sound. Sometimes you might hear us talking over each other. We'll try not to do that as best we can. But without further ado, I am going to welcome a very special guest. It's not just Jennifer, but she is also a Jedi today. Jennifer.
I'll show you my full costume here in a little bit. Welcome, everyone, to the third webinar in a series of 4 that are called Best Storytime Practices. I've been really excited about this one because it's all about Summer Reading 2019. Our theme is space, a universe of stories, and I've been excited for a long time about our summer reading theme. So I have a lot of ideas that I'd like to share with you today. Our last webinar is all about play. So how do you get those little patrons up, involved in the stories with props and puppets and parts that they can play? So that's on April 16th, and I hope you'll join us for that one too. Lots of great ideas there. So we're going to get started. So yes, today I gotta show you my outfit here, because I encourage all librarians to dress up for summer reading, right? And this summer, with our theme of space, we have all kinds of opportunities to dress in weird and strange, out of this world outfits. So I went to a Halloween and party store here in Traverse City, Michigan, and they had a costume for Rey, the Jedi Knight, the youngest of the Jedi Knights. I'll be dressed as Rey all summer long, just to sort of add to that theme and the excitement of the theme. So we'll begin here. Summer Reading 2019, we will be traveling out into space. Summer Reading 2019, science and stories will find a place. I was in Mr. Barnow's 6th grade classroom, smack dab in the middle of the Apollo 11 and the Apollo 13 launches to the moon. And my teacher, Mr. Barnow, was a complete space geek. It was at that peak of NASA's programming, and there were 3 things that happened in Mr. Barnow's classroom that year that changed me forever. The first thing that happened was that he had us create a model moon in the back of the classroom that took up 1/4 of the room. It was made out of plywood and chicken wire and about 1,000 layers of paper mache. But he made sure that we created that moon exactly the way that it was, with every crater and every part of that moon labeled. We had small model launches on the moon and little astronauts that we would move around. The second thing that happened that year was that on every Friday afternoon, and I don't think this could happen today, Mr. Barnow would launch a rocket across the classroom on a wire that went from corner to corner. He really wanted us to understand the science behind rockets. The third thing that happened that year was that he had us embrace the whole NASA program, and he made us imagine what the future was going to be like and write futuristic stories that we published in books that we made ourselves. Because of Mr. Barnow and the influence that he had on me at age 12, I went to college and I got a degree in biology, another degree in environmental science, and my 3rd degree in literacy. So my point to you is that during summer, just like all times of the year, but especially during summer reading, you have the opportunity to influence a child in a way that maybe nobody else has influenced them before. So I encourage you to dress up and decorate the library and get into the spirit of Summer Reading 2019. And I just like to share that story about Mr. Barno with you because, you know, our inspiration comes from special people that have crossed our paths. And sometimes you don't even know that you're inspiring a child, but I bet you have inspired many of them by now. So let's get started. I have a lot of ideas to share with you. I plan each of these webinars based on keeping in mind the 5 practices that every story time or every program should have. But I also want to tell you that this particular program is geared towards families. So moms and dads and caregivers and students and children of just about any age in the audience. And you know what that's like, right? So I want to talk to you a little bit about the handouts that I provided, the first link that's there in your chat box. Probably almost a year ago, I started to research and look at the material out there so that I could start planning my summer reading programs. And so what I've given you is my entire outline of all the resources that I found for each age group, along with craft activity links, bibliographies for each age, and links for other ideas that I found that I thought that you would find interesting or maybe usable this summer. So please carefully check out that link to that handout. I think you'll find a lot of great ideas in there. Most of the things that I'm going to present to you today are going to be in that handout, and if they're not in that one, they're going to be in the second handout that I've provided for you. And it's a number of templates and sheets and book lists that you'll be seeing me use in this webinar, and then you can use later on. You can use them the way I do, or you can use them in any way that you creatively find will work for you, okay? So I want to talk a little bit about the fact that this webinar is also based on science and story. So our theme this summer is space, a universe of stories. And I want us to all know that we can embrace it on both levels of storybooks and folklore and all the wonderful things that are out there that pertain to space, and also those factual materials that we're going to use to supplement. So I want to talk about the brain just a little bit before I share my first story. What's so wonderful about sharing narrative or folklore or story before we share fact with our patrons is that when we share story, it opens up 3 regions of our brain. And if some of you have been with me before, you'll remember these, and it might be review. So when we're listening to a story, a narrative, there are 3 parts of our brains that are activated. The first part is the cerebral cortex, or our information and data storing part of our brain. That's the part when we hear a story, if we know anything about the topic, we open up an imaginary, right, file folder in that part of our brain. Bing! And we start putting new information into that file folder. So let's say it's stories about constellations. You open up a file folder and start stashing information in there. If you've already viewed the stars at night with a parent, or you've found the Big Dipper and you're hearing about constellations, well, then that folder would open up and already be in that data file. Bing! I already know about constellations. Now I'm going to learn more, right? And put more information in that. So data collector, right? Back of our brain, amygdala. And I like to always tell my participants to tap the back of your brain to remember which part this is. The most important part of our brain when we're listening to stories is our emotion. How do we feel about what we're hearing? And our memories. What does this story tap into that I remember, right? So emotion and memory, also in that part of that brain, really, really important to combining story with fact with fiction, is that in that part of the brain is motivation. What do I want to learn? And desire. How badly do I want it? So that activates when we're listening to a story. The third part, my favorite part of the brain, right here above your eyebrows and behind your forehead, the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain, but also where our imagination sits. And when we listen to a story, we pull up images on that part of our brain so that we can imagine what's happening in that story. I call this a movie screen whenever anybody's listening to a story. So what I want you to keep in mind now is that when we share folklore or a story that has something to do with the constellations or space or the moon, old legends and lore, then The listener's going to open up what they already know or start a new folder. They're going to ask themselves if they have any memories or feelings around that topic. They're going to imagine what they're hearing in that story. And what this does is later on, when we add fact and we start filling in with fact, their brain is already activated and they're already ready to listen. And so this file folder will open a lot easier if they've already been stimulated and motivated by a story. So I'm going to mix it up today between folklore and some fact and some activities that you can do. Now remember, this is a family program, okay? So I want to share with you a book that's already on your list. And it's a dear, dear friend of mine and colleague in Minnesota. His last name is Strauss too, but we were only siblings by choice, not by blood. His name is Kevin Strauss. I call him my little brother by choice. And he wrote a book that's called Loon and Moon. Kathy's going to try and get a hold of it. It's incredible. And this first story that I'm going to share with you is the title of the book, Loon and Moon. And so it'll lead into some other factual things that we're going to do as we gather with families about the moon. I'm going to stand up to tell this story.
And Jennifer, as you stand up, I'll just let everybody know that Loon and Moon is available on mel.org through One Michigan Library, but perhaps if your library decides to purchase it, you can make it available on Mel as well for others. So I'll try to get a copy here at the Library of Michigan to circulate through our library science collection to public library staff.
Excellent. And copies, Kathy, are also available through Kevin. So, am I muted, you guys? Did I just mute?
No, I can hear you.
Okay,
you're good.
Sorry, I saw the line. Okay, so Loon and Moon. A long, long time ago, Moon was always full, and she traveled every night across the sky. And it's a long way from one side of the sky to the other. Over the years, because Moon was traveling in her fullness across the sky every night, she got tired. One night, she was so tired that she wasn't watching where she was going on the sky path, and she tripped and she stumbled and she fell off of the sky path and went down and down and down and landed, splash, right into a lake. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Moon can't swim. She sinks like a stone, or maybe we should say a moon rock. She went down and down and down through the water and landed in the mud at the bottom of that lake. Now, that night, all the animals of the forest had seen Moon fall from the sky and land in the lake, and so they all came and gathered by the shores. Flying Squirrel was the first one to speak. And he said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? If Moon's not shining, we won't find our food. We won't know how to find our way through the forest. I'll have to grow bigger eyes. But Moose, in his calm voice, said, now, wait a minute here. We can think of a way to rescue Moon. I know we can. From the side of the lake, there came another nervous voice. It was Beaver. Beaver said, I'm a good swimmer. I swim really well. I'll go down and dive deep down to the bottom of the lake, and I'll bring Moon back up for us. And everyone thought that it was a good idea to send Beaver. Beaver waddled out into the water and dove in, started kicking those big webbed feet of his, and started to navigate with that flat tail until he came to the middle of the lake. He could see the glow of Moon coming up from the water, and so Beaver dove down and started to kick until he went down, down, down. And he could see Moon growing brighter and bigger, but all of a sudden Beaver felt like his lungs were going to explode, and he felt like his eyes were being squished into his skull. He knew that he wasn't going to make it. Beaver turned and he kicked his way back up to the surface of the lake, and ploosh! He caught his breath and said, I couldn't make it. Somebody else is going to have to go. Now there was a calm voice over in the weeds who said, I can go down and rescue the Moon. And this time it was Snapping Turtle. And everyone nodded, for they knew that Snapping Turtle was a great swimmer. And so Turtle paddled out on the water with those 4 webbed feet of his. He got to that place where the glow of moonlight was coming up through the water, and Turtle dunked his head and started to swim down and down and down. He got much further than Beaver, and the glow of the moon got bigger and brighter and bigger. But then there came a time when Turtle felt like his lungs were going to explode, and his eyes were being squished into the sides of his head. And he knew he wasn't going to make it. He turned out there, but I couldn't make it. Now all the animals on the shore were staring at each other, wondering who they would send. No one was as good a swimmer as Beaver or Snapping Turtle when there was a call that came out of the darkness and off of the lake. Ooh, ooh, I'll go save the moon. They looked out, and in the darkness, they saw Loon. Although she was only a silhouette, for in those days, Loon's feathers were black, just like her sister Raven's feathers. Ooh, I can go. Bear grabbed his belly and said, oh, Loon can't save the moon. How are you going to swim down that far? But Loon didn't bother to pay attention to Bear's laughing. She said, I will go. Now she knew that she couldn't start right from the surface of the water. She needed to get up higher and make a dive for Moon. And so she started to run across the water and flapped her wings until she went up in the air. And Loon made 3 circles over the lake until she was right over the glow of moonlight. She tucked in her wings, pointed her long nose toward the lake, and she shot down like an arrow and entered the water. She started kicking those big webbed feet of hers, and she went down and down and down. And she could see the glow of the moon getting bigger and closer and bigger and closer. Now, just like the other animals, Loon felt like her chest was gonna explode, and her red eyes were being pressed into the sides of her skull, but she knew she couldn't give up. And with all her strength, she kept moving her feet until finally she made it to the bottom of the lake. She opened her big bill and she grabbed Moon in that bill and then lifted her and started to kick her feet toward the surface of the water. Ploosh! She made it to the surface. She was catching her breath. She took Moon and placed her on her back, the way that loons carry their babies when they're small. And when Loon had caught her breath enough, why, Moon leaned over her shoulder and said, you saved me, Loon. You saved me from the bottom of the lake. If it wasn't for your strength and bravery, why, I would stay stuck in the mud forever. Thank you, Loon. And the Moon took off her shawl and she wrapped it around Loon's neck. And now Loon had a shawl that had squares of moonlight and squares of nighttime. Moon said, this is yours, my way of thanking you for saving me. Loon ran across the water with Moon on her back, flapped her wings until she took to the sky again. And she took Moon and put her back on the sky path so that Moon could continue her journey across the sky that night. But ever since that night, when Loon saved Moon and put her back in the sky, why, Loon and all her ancestors wear a cape, a shawl, covered with squares of moonlight and squares of nighttime. And ever since that night, Moon decided that it was very important that she not get so tired. So on certain nights, we will see Moon travel in her fullness across the sky. But you know, on other nights, you'll look up and wonder where she is, and you won't be able to see her at all. It's on those nights when Moon is resting. So that's a story called Loon and Moon. So isn't that a beautiful one? Tell me if you enjoyed that one or you think it might be one that you would use. Tell me in the chat box if you thought that that was a story you might use. I just love it.
Yeah,
So,
please write in the chat. And
all right, beautiful. So let me
yeah.
show you, I've started to work on some costumes and props, because if you're like me, you're always looking for ways that you can get those audience members involved, right? And if you're with families and you get all the ages up and involved, it makes it fun for everyone. So let me show you, I'm starting to work on the props for that to get everybody involved. And I took at the dollar store, you know, a foamy visor, and then took more foamy and cut out a bill and two big red eyes for Loon. And so I'm starting to work on the props that will be easy to make, easy to use when you have families together for a program. I made a Loon cape that a participant could wear. I just did a half circle of black muslin and sewed it so that that cape can then be put over their heads like this, right? I'm not going to do it because I've got the bill on, but you can see how the cape would look, right? And then I found at the dollar store a mask that was already made up. So here's snapping turtle, and right now I'm working on beaver. So I might have other animals who are standing on the lake shore, but really the main characters. And then check out the shawl that Moon gets. And we'd have to have a moon, of course, right? So we'd have to have somebody play the moon and dive down into the lake and get stuck in the mud. So I have a moon, and then check out the shawl that gets put around Loon's neck when she has saved the moon from the mud, right? So those squares of moonlight and squares of nighttime, and then somebody, the person who plays Loon can then put that shawl around and see what Loon's backs really look like. So I'm working on those props. If you're with me during the April 16th webinar, it's all about play and how we get our audience members up and involved in the story, actually acting it out. And I'll bring those props back in case anyone's interested to see the final product of that one. But this summer, I'm going to be using that story and those props to get kids up and get involved in telling and acting out the story of Loon and Moon. So in your packet, and I have permission from Kevin to use the illustrations, I've given you two illustrations. One of them is the way Loon looks without the shawl, and then the other is the way Loon looks at the end of the story. And if you look very closely at the copy that I gave you, you can actually see the squares left over. I just colored it in, but I did it so that you could actually see the squares. So you have copies of these, and I would suggest that you copy them off on a bit of a heavier tag board. And so here's the goal for dexterity and mobility. You know that pre-writing activities is also picking up small objects, manipulating them, and this is all getting little ones ready and for writing and using pencils. So I took just stickers, mailing stickers, office supply mailing stickers, cut them into little squares because you know how easy that is to peel, right? And you'd have those available for them to start designing the shawl of Loon by putting those stickers on whatever way they wanted to design that, So I'll put one more on there so you can see what I mean. So very easy to take the sticker off because of the office supply stickers, and very good for those little hands. And then this is also a wonderful thing for families to do together, right? I said easy, and here I am with one that's not, right? Sure. Okay, hang on. Most of them had a little lip on it so that you can just take that sticker off and start designing the shawl, and they can take Loon and Moon home with them. So this is a really lovely follow-up for that story. Okay, are there any questions on that one? Handouts, the templates are in your packet, and these are just stickers from, you know what I mean by address stickers that you get at the office supply. So that's what these are. All right, so we just told a story that is folklore, right? And it's not, true. But again, that opened up a file folder for the moon, any experiences they had around a lake, reflections of the moonlight on the water, animals that they may have had experiences with. So now I want to show you another activity that I found. This is so cool. Dollar store book. I'm always looking, and I bet you are too. So dollar store book. And it's just called Questions and Answers About Space. And when I looked in, I found a whole page that was questions and answers about the moon. So you can do this in many different ways. I put all the questions on round moons. These were at Joann Fabrics or Michael's in the cake making section, you know, the cooking section, right? Whole packet of 24 of them for $3.99, and they look like moons. So I put all the questions on the moons. I put all the answers on bigger ones, and a little bit of a moon, decorative moon that I also found at the dollar store. And so several ways that I think you can use these. One, you could pass one question out to each family in your audience in that program and have them that be their question that they come back and report on to the whole group later on. And these are all over the library. So they would be looking for the symbol of the moon, and they'd have to find the correct answer to their question. So there's easy questions in there for younger members of the family, and a little bit harder questions in there for the older members of the family, because those family programs tend to range all the ages. So here is an example of a little bit of a harder one. What is the dark side of the moon? Right? So what is the dark side of the moon? And you would hand those out. Families would get together and read that question, go off into your library and look for the right answer. And the answer on this one says the dark side of the moon is the side that we cannot see from Earth. It is because it takes the same time for the moon to orbit Earth as it does to turn on its axis. Astronauts orbiting the moon have seen the dark side, but we have not. So a little bit of an older question, right? So the other thing that I thought you could do with these after the program, after you get the families involved with asking, you know, giving them a question and then having them go find their answers, is that this goes up in your library as one of those displays where kids can match the question to the answer and maybe get a prize for it. So you could put that in a case or up on a bulletin board after your program, and anybody who wasn't at your program could also benefit from the questions and the answers and the facts and needs. So the questions that I took out of the book and the answers are in your packet, second handout in your packet. If you want to use those, of course, you can go find your own questions and answers that have to do with this summer. But I just thought it was a really lovely way to get families of all ages involved and get those parents involved, not sitting in the back with the kids up front, but sitting together and engaging in story and also fact about the moon. So hope you'll use that one as well. Any questions on that one? I didn't put the supply list in your packet, but I'm hoping that you've seen these things. You'll know what I'm talking about. All right. Questions on that one, anyone? Give me a little shout out if you think it might be something that you use this summer. I just want to see if these ideas are effective for you guys. I got nothing. Okay, good. All right, and again, in your survey, you can let us know, you know, the things that are working for you and not. Okay, so you know that we have to add songs, and I bet some of you have seen or heard or even checked this song out already. I also envision this having families up and actually acting this out. I ordered the planets, but they haven't arrived yet for this webinar. So I envision the sun being in the middle and everybody singing this song with certain participants from the audience being the planets orbiting the sun. Could get a little crazy, but we'll see. So the words to this song and a few others are in your packet. And I bet you've heard it before, but I'm going to sing it with you. All right? The planets revolve around the sun, hurrah, hurrah. The planets revolve around the sun, hurrah, hurrah. The planets revolve around the sun and spin on their axis, everyone. And they all go spinning around and around and around they go. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, hurrah, hurrah. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, hurrah, hurrah. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, all whirling and twirling among the stars. And they all go spinning around and around and around they go. Jupiter and Saturn are next in line, hurrah, hurrah. Jupiter and Saturn are next in line, hurrah, hurrah. Jupiter and Saturn are next in line. They're made of gas, but that's just fine. And they all go spinning around and around and around they go. Uranus and Neptune, that makes 8, hurrah, hurrah. Uranus and Neptune, that makes 8, hurrah, hurrah. Uranus and Neptune, that makes 8, the last 2 planets, but aren't they great? And they all go spinning around and around and around they go. Pluto totally got kicked out, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Pluto totally got kicked out, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Pluto totally got kicked out. It's too little to really count, but it still goes spinning around and around and around they go. So how many of you have heard that song already as you're looking for summer reading ideas? Anybody? It's a great one, not that hard. Oh, good. I'm glad it's the first time you heard it, Krista. So it's not that hard to learn. Some of the other planet songs are really hard to learn. I learned this one in the last week, so it's not that hard to learn. And it's in your packet, and of course it's to a familiar tune. So hopefully you'll use that. But can't you see the sun in the middle, like somebody dressed up as the sun? And then all your participants moving around the sun as you introduce them into the song. It would be great fun for your audience, great fun for them to understand orbiting and how they're all spinning through space. So I'm going to work on doing that this summer too, getting the props together, and I hope that my planets arrive in the mail next week. I ordered them big posters that are each one of the planets, and they're to scale, so people can actually see them in scale as they orbit the sun. So it's a fun one, and I hope you will use that one. So I'm going to get up now and take you back to the felt board. I've created a felt board activity that has to do with the moon and a little song to go with it. And so come on back to the felt board with me and we'll sing this one. And then I have some STEM and craft ideas that I'd like to share with you. Kath, how we're doing on time? Ooh, we're good this time. Good this time.
We're doing great. Thank you, Jen.
So can you guys all see the felt board? Let me know if it's in good view, Kathy. Is that good?
It's good.
All right. So if you guys know the song, the green grass grows all around, the green grass grows all around. I use the same tune because if we're really good at programming, we're going to use things that they're already familiar with, right? And we're going to change those words so the brain goes, I know this song. Wait a minute. This is new. All right. So the first line of this one goes, the dark sky looms up above, the dark sky looms up above. And in that sky, and this is a call and response, so I'll do both since I can't hear you. So it goes like this, and in that sky, there were some stars, the brightest stars that you ever did see, And the stars were in the sky, and the dark sky looms up above, That dark sky looms up above. Within those stars, there was a moon, the fullest moon that you ever did see, And the moon was in the stars were in the sky, and the dark sky loomed up above, the dark sky loomed up above. And in that moon, there was a man, the loneliest man, the loneliest man that you ever did see, And the man was in the moon was in the stars were in the sky, and the dark sky loomed up above, that dark sky loomed up above. And from his lips, there came a tune, the saddest tune that you ever did hear, and the tune was on his lips. The man was in the moon was in the stars were in the sky, and the dark sky loomed up above, that dark sky loomed up above. So that's as far as I got, but my head was kind of going crazy to what you could add to this, or how you could adapt this, right? You could have an astronaut on the moon, and the astronaut get off. You could have an alien come around the moon, and the alien do things. So a basic black felt board is going to serve you really well this summer, and that tune can be shared because they already know that tune, and so it's going to connect in success with them from something they already know, but you're going to do it in a different way, and that'll help them grow in language and help them have fun as families and sing a song together. Felt boards are a wonderful tool. I use them a lot, and I hope you do too, because it's just a great visual, right? So any questions on that one? All right, so I have some activities to share with you, and actually 3 or 4 of them, and all the templates are in your packets. They are also linked in your first handout where I did all that research and put those that outline together for you. So several places where you can access them depending on how you want to copy them off or how you want to use them. So I've had some great fun with this one. I've done a bunch of library trainings live around the state of Michigan already, and the librarians really love this one because not only are they learning about the phases of the moon, but you get a snack at the same time. And you may have seen this already. So let me grab what I need for this one. You need Oreo cookies. You may have seen this already, right? You need Oreo cookies. There's my spoon, there it is. And you need 2 handouts that are in your packet. One is the scientific chart for the phases of the moon with their correct terms underneath. All right, so that'll be next to them. And another one that is blank that says Oreo cookie phases of the moon. All right, so the goal, and you can have families work together on this. It's really fun if they work together because then you got the snack built right into this, and you can have milk or water or cider or something to go with it, right? So the goal of this, and I'll show you a few of them to get the idea. I'm not going to do all of the phases, but I'll show you how it works. Of course, we know how to twist the Oreo off, right? And so we're going to twist that Oreo off and take a look at it. It should be a full round circle. I twisted a little too hard on that one. And that would be the full moon. So the other half gets placed somewhere to eat later on.
I would eat it.
You'd eat it right now?
Yep.
And so they're going to look at the chart and see what the full moon looks like, right? And then find the full moon label that's on their Oreo cookie chart. Right, so full moon's in this corner, so they would put that down under full moon. Now when it gets into like crescent, right, and half moon, and they've got to get the crescent going the right direction, I love it. Buy double amount of cookies than you really need, absolutely, because they're going to get eaten. So let me just show you if it's half. And oh shoot, you guys, I just cracked that cookie. I'm going to have to eat that one too. Okay, hang on. There we go, little gentler touch there. So there's the full moon. You're gonna use probably plastic spoons. I hate the plastic, so I'm using a metal today. But then together as families, they'll have to decide, well, what does that half moon look like? From my mom. And then put that down where that one goes, right, on the circle. Until they have all 8 filled in, and they can talk about whether they have them in the right place. You can talk about the phases of the moon, have other posters up, and then it's an eating frenzy, an Oreo cookie eating frenzy. So then, there eats the cookie. So how many of you have seen this one already? Teenagers love this one, you guys. Absolutely love this one.
This is a good chance for me to plug our collaboration with StarNet Libraries, because on their Clearinghouse website, if you go to clearinghouse.starnetlibraries.org, they have this activity as well on there.
Yeah.
So you've got Jen's handouts and you've got StarNet's handouts. So.
And links in my first handout to directions for how to do this as well.
Great.
So make sure you use that first handout. And how cool would it be to use the mint Oreo cookies, right? for, you know, the whole myth about the moon being made out of green cheese. How cool would that be? So again, mixing up fact and fiction all summer long so that they're learning the mythology and the lore behind space and all the things that are involved, and then also the facts behind it. So hope you'll use that one. I love that one because I love Oreo cookies. All right. So the next activity, oh, you guys, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I haven't done it yet. You're my guinea pigs, all right? And Kathy, do I need to move the camera?
Yes, down a little bit.
Move back a little bit here. And I want to move the camera so that you can actually see what I'm doing here. So hold on.
And while you do that, somebody else mentioned Pinterest, and it's also a great point for me to plug the CSLP Pinterest page. It's CSLP Reads, and they have lots of great ideas on there for space and a universe of stories.
Tons of ideas. This is such a fun summer. I can't wait for the summer to come. My first summer program was on April 30th, and it's their kickoff actually in April, so I'm excited about that. All right, so I went to Gordon's because I'm going to be doing these all summer, and got a whole bunch of fairly substantial tins with the tops. You know, they're like cake covers, right? But I'm going to use this for mixing the moon rocks and this pan to let them dry, right? So what we're making today is moon rocks. And I've got to take out, well, actually, I'll put on my gloves. I would suggest that you buy or have on hand plastic gloves because we are going to be using food color for this one, and it's black food color. So putting gloves on would probably be a good idea when we start forming the moon rocks. So what we're doing here is we're making moon rocks. Families, this is great for. Also, probably a little bit older kids. You know, the little ones. They could do it if they had some helping hands with them. It'd be really fun for them too. But it's a little involved. So let me show you. And I didn't give you this recipe, but I did give you the link in that handout, but just in case you don't find it right away. It's a YouTube video called DIY Moon Rocks. DIY Moon Rocks. And Kath, if you can share that, that'd be great. And as the recipe unfolds, you can share that as well. All right. Big box of baking soda, 4 cups. Okay, 4 cups, big box, 4 cups, right? Spread it out in your pan, get rid of the chunks. Get rid of the chunks. And the plastic gloves make that really easy, right? Get rid of the chunks. And I bought a bag of plastic, 12 pairs of these gloves. I've got to be careful about allergies though, right? Latex allergies. But I bought a packet of these for $1, 12 pairs for $1. So you might have sources for those. Okay, so 4 cups. 1 tube of silver glitter. Dump. 1 tube of gold glitter. Dump.
I'm sure the staff at NMU is super happy about this today.
I'm in my own little conference room at Northwestern Michigan College where I coach college students, and they have no idea what I do in here. But the guys on the other side of the wall say I'm really loud, and I tell them I know that. So anyway, all right, black food coloring, right? And I looked at brown too, but when I saw these moon rocks come out, the black ones are really awesome with the silver and the gold glitter. So you can use the liquid, or you can use the, this is the goopy one, the gel kind, right? So I'm going to squirt that whole tube. And this is what I was told. Squirt that whole tube in there. And 1/4 cup of water. 1/4 cup of water. Spatula, right? So I'm going to dump the water. And then you start mixing. Do you guys, have you ever made oobleck before? Do you remember making oobleck out of cornstarch and water and getting this weird substance? This is a little drier than oobleck. So it's not going to have that weird, those weird properties, but it reminds me of that. We just did Dr. Seuss's birthday party and we made oobleck. So you mix it all up. You can add more water if you think that you need to, but what happens once it gets all mixed up and the food coloring. And I'm looking at this thinking that the liquid food coloring is probably going to make it black a lot quicker, and this is going to take longer, and perhaps a little bit more water, because it's not mixing in as quickly as would the liquid black food coloring. All right, so once it gets all mixed, then the goal then is to get it in your hands and make these round rocks. And the kids should be able to do this with their families, and squeeze until it's a round rock. And then they're going to need to dry in the pan. And let me see if I can show you this. So here's the rock. Can you see it? This is so weird doing webinars, you know? So there's the rock, and it's a little green right here. I didn't mix it as much as I would if we had more time, but it will eventually get very black, and then it'll dry. When they dry, they're these black rocks with gold and silver sparkles that really look like moon rocks. If you have to wait for the kids to come back to get them, I would suggest putting a toothpick in them and a piece of tape with their name on it. The toothpick won't interrupt the rock, and you can have their name on it so they can actually get the rock that they made the day before or the week before. But what fun, right? And it's not that messy. It's kind of messy, but it's not ooey gooey messy. You know what I mean? So I hope you'll try the moon rocks. Again, the recipe is on a link in that handout. It's also DIY moon rocks on YouTube. 4 cups of cornstarch, 1 tube of glitter gold, 1 tube of glitter silver, 1 container of black food coloring. I would suggest the liquid. Oh, really? Greek yogurt cups. Oh, very cool. That would be that, so they can take them home. Great idea. Thank you. And then dry in a pan. Make sure they're dry before they get sent home. I'm a little worried about sending them home before they're dry because they may end up all crumbled before they get home. So these pans work out really great because the top and the bottom come together. You can mix in this one, dry in this one. So have some fun with moon rocks. Right? What a blast, right?
Hey, Jen, do you know how long it might take to dry?
Overnight.
Overnight, okay.
Overnight, yep, overnight to dry. And I really am, like I said, this is the first time I've actually mixed it myself, and the liquid food coloring is gonna do a much better job than the gel food coloring that I just used. I'm gonna need to add more water and then really, really mix for a long time to get it to look the black color that we want. So just know that, note that, okay? Moon rocks, everybody, hope you'll do that. What a blast. Can you tell I'm a little excited about this summer? All right, so one last idea for you, and then we can open it up to some questions. I want to share a few books that are on your book list. Let me check the time. We're doing great this time. I'm usually going crazy trying to fit everything in. So this one is a lovely takeaway gift for an evening family program to get them to come back for more later, get them intrigued about STEM. And so let me show you how this one works. All right. So in your packet, the second packet is a template, and I cut them up already, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's 6 of them on each page, and they're just simple rockets. I would copy them on a tag board. I did it on a heavier tag board, okay? So then I always supply everybody with a multitude of Sharpie markers. You can do water, you know, the water-based markers if you want. Sharpies are really beautiful when you color these, but you know what it does to a little guy's hands, and parents aren't always really happy about that. So you decide if you want to put crayons out, or whether you want to put Sharpies or other markers that aren't gonna, you know, that will wash off later on. So here's what I did. You can cut them out if you want, or you can let the families cut them out. I usually let the families cut them out together and have little safe scissors out in bins, right? So I get them cut in squares like this. So they're already cut out of the page. And then they color them. So last night I colored a little rocket man in my rocket. Heavy tag, right? And then fat straws. Yeah, I'm sorry, they're plastic, and if you can find a better alternative, that is awesome. But fat straws, at Michael's, sometimes they sell pipettes that already are little plastic tubes that already have the end finished off. If they're made that way, I couldn't find them. So I cut pieces of my fat straws. I took a piece of tape, and I squish the end, I pinch the end and put a piece of tape over it. The goal is that no air gets through that one, right? So that small straw or pipette, if you find them at Michael's or somewhere else, is going to get taped to the back of the rocket, and you're going to have lots of regular Scotch tape available at the tables. And that small piece of straw gets taped to the back after the rocket is colored. These are little wedding straws or candy straws. You find them in the baking aisle at Michael's and at Joann Fabrics. And they are cardboard, thank goodness, but they're smaller than the fat straw. And so it gets inserted in the back, right? So you've got that little pipette or that straw, that end has been pinched, so it's tight, airtight. Skinnier straw goes in, and then you have a rocket launching contest before everybody goes home. Watch. Cool, huh? So it's a really, really simple way to send them home with a concept of rocket launching, which you could get into later. And so I hope you'll try that one too. The templates are in your packet. Directions for these also in handouts number 1 and one of the links, and you'll see it say paper rocket, and you can go to that link for the supply list on that one. All right, so I want to open up the rest of our time here, which is about 9 minutes, to see if you have any questions for me about this summer, anything that you've seen in a webinar, other ideas that you want to talk about. Chat away.
Yeah, please go ahead and share your thoughts or ideas in the chat box. Nobody's typing. Any questions? What are you guys doing this summer? What's going on? How are you going to incorporate story into your summer reading? That's what I'm really curious about. We have so much STEM going on and great ideas.
Oh, the books.
Yeah.
In chat, I'm going to hold up some really cool books. These are all on your book list, okay? So you may have seen this one, goes really well with the webinar we did last time, which was on our Michigan Ready to Read book, Catch the Brightest Star. And this one goes really well with it, and it's called The Big Dipper. It's on your list. Franklin M. Bradley is the author. Simple, beautiful story about being with your family, right? And finding the Big Dipper in all seasons, but in different locations in the sky. So learning how to look for the Big Dipper, a really wonderful book. I love this one. This one, I love this one too. Planets Beyond Our Solar System. So what we're learning now, right? With our new technology, it's called Faraway Worlds. Planets Beyond Our Solar System. And they talk about some of the new science and what we're discovering, and that this universe is really much bigger than any of us thought, right? So that's a wonderful resource. You're the author of Curious George. Wrote the book Find the Constellations. So R.H. Ray, Curious George, all about the constellations. A little bit older content, right? A little bit older, maybe your teens or older elementary school students who really want to learn the night sky. That's a great resource. I got to show you my favorite one. Have you guys seen The Zoo in the Sky? And if you haven't, you need to get this book. It's the most magical one I've seen so far. So Zoo in the Sky by Jacqueline Mitten, and it's animals in the constellations, but look at these illustrations. They have sparkly stars in them to show the constellation shape. Awesome, awesome book. So just gives a little bit about each of the animals, but I love the illustrations and the story. So this book is actually mixing fact and fiction together, and I love that about it. Plus, look at the illustration. So awesome. My sister found this one for me when she knew what summer reading theme was going to be. It's called Full Moon Lore, and it goes through every month, and it talks about the moon for every month. So we're in March, right? I'm going to read you a little shorty that's on the sap moon. I have friends who are now tapping trees and getting that sap so that they can make maple syrup. The sap moon, March. March is the month of the sap moon. This is the time of year of the vernal equinox. The end of winter is arriving. I want to hear cheers. Yay! And the earth begins to wake up. Earthworms dig their deep burrows in preparation for the arrival of the birds, The sun shines and hides again. The freezing and thawing causes the sweet sap to rise in trees. The sap from maple trees is tapped and gathered for syrup. So sap moon is the March moon, but there's one of those for every month of the year. So check out that book. It's on your list. This one I got years ago, but boy, is it coming in handy for summer reading 2019. Tales of the Shimmering Sky, 10 global folk tales with activities. She mixes fact and fiction really, really well. And the ideas and activities in this book are awesome. So check that one out. And then finally, They Dance in the Sky, Native American star myths. So many times we're seeing the Greek and the Roman myths about the stars. I really like this one. It's a simpler concept and a really earth-based concept. So I hope you'll check that one out too.
Thank you, Jennifer. All those books are recommended in the Galaxy list.
Yep.
The link we have provided.
The second handout that you got, yeah. That's all in there, probably the second page, I think.
So we have one comment that they're planning a Nerf war with their tweens, and they have already planned out the entire background story.
So
the Nerf, a Nerf war, Nerf guns.
Nerf war.
Yes. And also, we have a question for you. So she said, my story timers really like the song you shared called The Stars at Night. You shared that last month with us.
Right.
Do you have any more like that?
The one that I just created on the felt board was my newest one, and I'm working on some more. I'll think about that. And Linda, I hope you'll be with us next time, because I will do more songs like that with all the action and participation. I have a lot of them. Do you mean specifically for this summer reading program, for this theme? Or just more songs like that one? I don't know if Linda's still on or not.
She says yes, for summer.
Okay, all right. Yep. I will. I'll try and bring some to the next webinar, and at least do 2 of those in the next webinar as either our beginning or warm up or our closing song.
And then we have another question about the consistency of the moon rocks. When you're done, when they're dry, are they firm enough to hide a small treasure?
Small treasures. I've seen other videos and other YouTube videos where they are hiding treasures in them. Again, use the liquid food coloring.
Not the gel.
Enough water for it, because this was not right. Enough water for it to mold, you know, like that snowball feel, right? That wet snowball feel. And yes, you could hide stuff in there and it would do just fine. Check out the YouTube videos on that and you'll get some examples.
Very fun. Very fun. Well, it's almost 3 o'clock. I'm not seeing any other questions going up, but you have another minute here. I'm just going to remind you to please fill out the survey today at the end of this webinar. So that is available. I'm going to put the links back down in the comments. And just another quick reminder that we have all sorts of materials and information at CSLP Reads. And I'll put that in the comments as well. You should have gotten your manual. It's all downloadable. All Michigan libraries are members of the Collaborative Summer Library Program because of, well, thanks to the Institute of Museum and Library Services. So please do access your manual and all the art this year. So I don't think we have any other, what's that?
One more comment. If you, there's a sheet in your packet that lets you know about my summer reading programs. There's still some June openings, only June though. July and August are totally gone, but there's still a few days in June. So if you want me to come and do some fun stuff with your libraries, get a hold of me.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you, Jen. Okay, so one last time, here are all the links. And a big thank you to Jen. Everyone. I wish you could hear everyone applauding. I'll raise my hands.
So weird to do this without anybody
Yeah,
responding.
it
But
is
I
very,
appreciate being here, Kathy, and I hope it's helpful. And I hope to see some of you on April 16th for It's All About Play. Getting them up and playing is one of our 5 practices.
yes, and you can find the link to register on the Library of Michigan website, and I also put it in the chat box earlier. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Jen.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye,
Have
everyone.
a really fun summer.